And welcome into the second half of the Week 4 Countdown Show. I'm your host, Ian Power, joined as always by Matt Vitale, and for the first time ever, special guest host Jeff Gagnon. He's going to be filling in for Frankie Santiago while he is, occupied with more important things, apparently. I guess he has to go to work or something. But the show must go on. So, we are here to break down the second half of the games, deliver some news. There's like 5 times as much news today as there was yesterday.
Yeah, injuries just kind of came out of nowhere today.
Yeah, everyone was like, my hamstring! Like, apparently overnight, someone just going around whacking hamstrings with a baseball bat while players slept or something. I don't know. But, yeah, it seems like everyone is now all of a sudden coming up lame. So, let's go ahead and break down some news. But before we do, make sure to give us a subscribe on YouTube. Hit that notification bell so you find out exactly when new content drops. And make sure to follow us on Twitter at our socials. You can see them all, decorating them all over the screen here. And the show social at the Fantasy 4-Pack. So you can get all of our musings and takes on news as it comes out. There's some... I guess I'll start with the most serious news. This is likely a guy that people either were already rostering or picked up this week. It looked like he was going to be in line for a good performance against the Falcons, but Allen Lazard out indefinitely. He got surgery on his core. This is news that kind of came out of nowhere. Hopefully you weren't relying on him, especially with all of the players that are going to be missing from the Steelers Titans. But if you were, you're going to want to try and find a replacement for him. You'll see if MVS is still out there, maybe, because he is going to be missing some time. On the plus side, though, for the Packers, Davante Adams was back at practice today. He was limited. Seems like he's trending towards playing, which is a good sign, given that he has that extra day to rest, and I guess with no Lazard, Adams was going to eat regardless, but this has got to mean just more work going his way.
Yeah, honestly, for me, I don't see this as too much of a change for Davante, because I think if Davante plays, as long as he's at least above 80%, he's going to give you similar production to what he normally does. I think this is just a huge bump to MVS, who was already the guy who was getting open, but he was a little bit less talented, I guess is the way to put it, than Lazard. But
it's got a case of the dropsies.
Yeah, a little bit. The hands are an issue, but now that he's kind of the only guy there that Rodgers even kind of trusts, that I see big things down the road for this kid.
I mean, I would think that maybe some of the volume could also go to Aaron Jones, but yeah, it's likely going to be mostly diverting over to MVS, and hopefully Lazard being out doesn't hurt the total for that game too much, because I'm looking forward to that one being a shootout. On the other side of the ball, and another thing that could limit the shootout potential of this game, Ridley was a surprise DNP today. Julio was limited, Gage was limited, so we're going to want to watch to see what those guys are doing throughout the rest of the week if they're able to get on the practice field tomorrow, because that would be a big boost towards their ability to play this week. But there's a lot of injuries in Atlanta suddenly that weren't there before. What's your let's say that Julio or Russell Gage can get out there this week, or let's say that Ridley can't get out there. What's your confidence level in the Falcons without Ridley, who seems like their main piece?
I mean, for me, if Julio plays, you play him. He's too talented. He's a consummate pro. He's dealt with playing banged up before, so I'm not too worried about him.
Sure.
Russell Gage, I have a lot less confidence in. But as far as the offense as a whole, I think this might just be maybe a game where we see a lot more game script going to Hurst and Gurley, just trying to use their uninjured weapons, which, because of that, this is going to be the Gurley injury game, and, Hurst will probably catch it too, because who isn't catching the injury bug these days?
Mr. Brian Hill.
Yeah.
Jeff, what about you?
Yeah, on the same point as Vitale, I think there's going to be a lot more checkdowns going forward in this game with Todd Gurley. We're going to see a lot of work with him. I think they're going to mix in Brian Hill quite a bit in terms of a few checkdowns as well. I could definitely see Hayden Hurst coming in and seeing the most volume And in terms of Gage, he may not be the best talent in the world, but he will probably see a lot of volume if he is the de facto number one at that point.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the same page as you, Jeff. Where if, I'm playing Julio regardless, and if Ridley doesn't play, Gage is a must play for me. Just with how much they're going to be, because neither team can stop the opposing team on the defensive side of the ball. Like there's going to be zero defense in this game. Especially with Gage just being a concussion, I'm not really worried about that cropping back up. So if Gage can get out there, I'm starting him, especially if Julio or Ridley misses. Will Fuller had a hammy tweak today in practice. He still logged a limited practice. Not worried as of yet, but if you're counting on him, and you should be because he's looking like he's in a smash spot this week, definitely going to want to check the practice reports tomorrow because this is something where we've seen this before with Fuller. He fine, hammy tweak, out. So keep an eye on him. This could affect his Sunday availability, but the warning flags aren't going up right now. No one's raising the alarm yet. This one I actually am a little more concerned about. Nuke Hopkins, DNP for 2 days in a row. He's not someone who misses a lot of games, and we've seen him do this before where he doesn't practice. It's similar to Julio, where he doesn't practice all week and then just comes in and plays and does great. Are you guys worried about Nuke Hopkins' availability this week?
At least for me, I'm not. I am not at this moment worried. If I'm a Hopkins owner, I am heavily monitoring it though and getting ready, basically preparing my team to be without Hopkins for this week. Planning around what guy I want to start over him, but he's staying in my lineup until I see otherwise from the team that he is not going to play, or if he's going to be limited or some kind of form of fashion where the team, because I expect this is going to be a veteran just getting a full week of rest because he doesn't need it. I mean, I'm surprised seeing how he is with a new team, so I'm not a huge fan of that because you ideally want him growing as much rapport with Kyler as possible, but Kyler already seems to be infatuated with him, and he's willing to throw him just all the balls, so I'm not too worried.
Jeff?
And kind of coming in with DeAndre Hopkins here, they may be looking past Carolina Panthers a little bit here too, so they may limit his reps a little bit. But if it's a close game, I think DeAndre Hopkins will. I mean, he's going to end up playing. I'm just fully confident in that one way or another. As to how much he'll play will kind of be dictated based on the score, but I expect DeAndre to play in some type of form.
Sure. Let's say he doesn't go. Christian Kirk back at practice. He had a groin. Seems like he's also trending towards playing. If Hopkins can't go, are you more interested in Kirk or Isabella?
Jeff, you want to take this one first?
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in actually Larry Fitzgerald here. He seems to be getting a lot of targets early on. I don't know what exactly happened last week. I didn't really follow the Fitzgerald type of volume, but he seems to have gotten a lot of targets early on. I do like Kirk as well, just because he has had a bit more of a rapport as of last season. If it's between Isabella and Kirk, I think Kirk will have a lot more potential in terms of yardage over Larry Fitzgerald, but Larry Fitz may be the receiver that actually finds the end zone.
Fair.
Yeah, I was in the same camp actually. I was waffling in my head between Kirk and Fitzgerald, but I think the team, if they're without their main weapon, might just rely on the sure hands of Larry to get it done. I think more importantly, I think if Hopkins is out, we're going to see a Kenyon Drake game like we saw last year, where he was just getting all the carries and just going off, because I think they'll just try and change up things to keep themselves from trying to play the same game without the same receivers, basically. Mm-hmm. I like Andy Isabella as a receiver. I just don't think he's there yet, and I think we just saw him, be the lucky guy to come down with the correct balls that gave him the points.
Sure.
So I think he's a little bit of a smokescreen. But if I had to put my confidence in a receiver, it's Larry.
I will piggyback on that too. I believe that they might utilize Chase Edmonds a little bit more as well. They've seen to kind of go to him a little bit more in terms of passing situations. Kenyon Drake will still be involved in passing situations, but if they feel like the receivers aren't cutting the work out, then they're going to just ship out Chase Edmonds in the backfield.
Yeah, I mean Carolina's a team that they're 31st against the run. I'm never going to tell you to not start a running back against Carolina. Obviously last week Austin Eckler had a smash day. Joshua Kelly didn't. That was more of a symptom of Kelly fumbling than him being ineffective. I think that you could absolutely get a flex-worthy start out of Chase Edmonds this week if you're really in a bind and you need to slap someone out there. I'm a little bit different than you guys. I'm a little bit different than you guys on my receiver take, where I think if Nuke does end up missing this week, I am interested in starting Isabella if I need a spot start from him, because while he might not see quite as much volume as Larry or Christian Kirk, he's one of those players where he just needs one ball to pay off. So I'll roll the dice on the upside of Isabella, especially against a suspect defense like the Panthers, and also factoring the fact that Kirk is just coming off a groin injury. Those are easily re-aggravatable injuries. It wouldn't shock me if Kirk comes back, especially if Nuke's going to miss. Kirk comes back early, re-injures himself, and your wide receiver duo is Larry and Isabella. I think the Panthers defense is soft enough that Isabella should be able to take advantage of that, and he doesn't need to catch very many balls to pay off. DJ Chark back at practice in limited fashion. Obviously good for fantasy owners, but he also practiced in limited fashion last Wednesday. So definitely another one to keep your eye on as the week goes on, because he could end up not playing again this week. It seems like he's back on track to play, but definitely don't just plug him in and forget about him. Another surprise DNP. Seems like Lenny's actually trending towards not playing this week. Uncle Len is a back-to-back DNP. Obviously not good for the running back position, because you're kind of running out of bodies at this point. But if you're a Ronald Jones manager, you got to be pretty happy about this news. It gives you some clarity to the backfield at least. So I'm sure Daria Gumbawale is going to get the start this week or something and frustrate us all.
Yeah, this one while I do see it as a positive if you're a Ronald Jones owner, I think this might be just lulling you into a trap. Like you're going to be like, all right, yeah, he's starting, so you're going to roll him out against the Chargers, and the Bucs are just going to have that flop, get through the game kind of win. Like, I expect them to win this game. I expect them to get like 1 or 2 touchdowns and just let their defense smother the Chargers, and utilize the rookie mistakes that Herbert's probably going to be making, because he's looked too good. I think we're going to see some of that shine come off him a little bit.
Sure.
And I'm confident in the Bucs D to be able to stop a rookie with a not so great team. But as far as this offense, like, I was in on Brady last week. It paid off for me. I'm out on Brady this week. Like, if you can find if he's your starter, maybe try and find someone who's on the waiver wire, or just avoid starting him if you can.
There are some very easily grabbed streaming options this week too, so I'm with you there. I will say one thing in the Bucs' favor: it doesn't make me, jump over and want to start all of my Bucs. I'm still worried about how their offense is going to produce, but Chris Harris Jr. was placed on IR. So it does reduce the amount of elite cornerbacks that the Chargers have to throw at the Bucs. I'm still kind of worried about their offense as a whole, because Scotty Miller's also not practicing. So the Bucs are likely going to be rolling out Mike Evans and then Justin Watson. So not great at all. You alluded last episode that we might see a little bit of a resurgence from Gronk. Maybe a one of his last good games that he can bring to fantasy managers. I'm not gonna suggest you roll Gronk out, but are you guys either, especially with the news that Chris Harris Jr. is not going to be in this game, are either of you guys more on the Gronk train than I am? For me, it's sort of Mike Evans, maybe OJ Howard, and that's it.
What are you thinking on this one, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm not really buying into Gronk in any shape or form. Right now with kind of COVID hitting all these games and canceling players that
1 second,
might not
Jeff.
be able to start Jonnu Smith or something like that. If you have a desperation tight end, I guess I can't really fault you, but it would be at the bottom of my list. I would not be confident in Gronk. I would not feel good about starting Gronk. He could find his way into the end zone, but I would rather play OJ Howard, and I'm not even 100% sold on that. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game than what we would normally expect when these two teams play, but I especially with Godwin out, Brady might struggle a little bit more, and I'm not as excited with this game in terms of fantasy relevance. I mean, there's definitely going to be some solid plays out there. If you have Evans, you still got to play him. You have Keenan Allen, you still got to play him. But
Yep.
and Ronald Jones is not a bad start. Kind of backtracking to Ronald Jones over there. I see more as a flex play, but he's just very boomer bust. I think if they give him more receiving work, he could have a good game. But we're starting to see LaShawn McCoy get a bit of it in Tampa Bay too, so that kind of scares me on that end.
Fair. Real quick, we're filming this as the Thursday night game is going on. We do a little bit of breaking news from that game. Sam Darnold is being escorted to the locker room. Joe Flacco is in at quarterback.
All right, Joe Flacco at the revenge game. If you can get in, go crank that money for the Jets. The revenge is on.
Oh my God!
Just
Joe
when you think it
Flacco,
can't
no
get
offensive
any
lines.
worse for the Jets.
Yeah, that's just that right there is. Like I said, that's Adam Gase's effect. He is reverse King Midas. Everything he touch, it turns to poop until it leaves and becomes gold.
Do you think
we're
that
gonna see another
Darnold slipped like
47
one of the
yards scrambled
Broncos
by a
players?
Yeah,
Like
this
he
game.
slipped one of those Broncos players at Benjamin before the game. Was like, just tackle me like really hard. I don't want to play anymore.
What is this, Sean Payton?
no, but
I don't think it really affects any of the fantasy value. But on the bright side, actually, it might be a positive effect for the fantasy value because without Darnold, maybe they just outright lose and Adam Gase is gone.
yeah, maybe this gets Gase off the team a little quicker. But yeah, just to rope it back into
Yeah.
Gronk, he is a if you need him. Like this is more of a gut feeling than something I can draw from how they've been playing or their statistical use. It's just that they have a $9 million, like as I said in the last episode, they have a $9 million tight end sitting on their bench doing nothing, chip blocking. Like the fans are going to get angry. The fans want to see Gronk.
Yep.
That's what people are tuning in to see. And if they, as a team, want to succeed and maybe boost up their TV ratings, especially because this is probably going to be not very watched, good and easy way to do that. Start using Gronk. If people see highlights of him Gronk spiking finally, like people might be like, oh, let me go see if Gronk's back.
What do you mean by telling not very watched? Are you suggesting that the Buccaneers and the Chargers don't have fans?
Not for
Because
this.
you'd be correct.
I was gonna say it's Florida.
Those are two putrid fan bases. Sorry if you're an actual Chargers or Buccaneers fan. You're like one of three.
I think I give the Chargers a pass. They are in a new city, at least. I mean, they poorly picked. Going to a city that just got a team, but
Sure, but they didn't have fans when they were in San Diego either.
yeah, it's also San Diego. But
All right, let's go to the next game on this list here. Jaguars Bengals. 49-point over-under. A little higher than honestly I thought it was going to be. Slightly weighted towards the Bengals. Looks like this is basically going to be a coin flip. I guess they don't expect much defense to be played on either side of the ball in this one. Is there... So this one I feel like is a bit of almost a trap game for certain players. Is there anyone in this game that you're starting with confidence? Obviously, Chark, limited in practice. AJ Green seems like father time caught up to him a bit. We saw the emergence of T. Higgins last week. Joe Mixon's just not getting it done on the ground. I mean, I guess you're starting James Robinson with confidence, but is there anyone else in this game that you're like, heck yeah, and let's assume that Chark plays. Is there anyone else in this game that you guys are confident in their ability to produce for fantasy managers?
yeah, so at least going to what we're going to be speaking about later with our picks and monies, I'm actually on Tyler Boyd for this week as a start. I think this is as the line points to is there's going to be points scored. It's not going to be pretty, and I don't think the defense is going to be scoring it like Indy did. So I think that just from the weight of turnovers, people are going to get good field position. I could just see Burrow leaning on Tyler Boyd, who is a safe receiver, who's he's a high volume guy. If he's seeing now that AJ Green isn't AJ Green, because he could have just been having the shine of looking at this like Hall of Fame wide receiver on his team and trying to get it to him, but if he just can't get it done, he might just shift his look over to Tyler Boyd, who is getting it done, or T. Higgins.
Well, I mean, and through 3 weeks, like if AJ Green's fully healthy, you got to give it to AJ Green. But if AJ Green is then also not getting it done, it's up to the coach. It's up to Zach Taylor to pivot off of him. Like
Yeah.
you can't keep forcing the ball to a guy who's not coming down with it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. I think they saw, after seeing when they finally used Tyler Boyd, I think that might have been an eye opener that, let's start shifting the offense in a different direction.
Yeah.
But as far as just quickly about how I feel about Mixon, I was on the Mixon camp. I thought this revamped offense with a new quarterback was going to be the breath of life that he needed, but I think we're just seeing, Joe Mixon after he came back from injury and was like okay. He was like a low end RB1 at best, middle tier running back 2, at worst. Like that's what he is. Like I think that, we just saw an aberration at the end where there's like, we don't care, just run it 400 times with
Sure.
Mixon. So he was just getting it done with just an obscene amount of carries.
Jeff, what about you? Anyone in this game that you have,
I actually like this game a lot for
confidence
fantasy
in?
purposes. I think it'll be somewhat of a high-scoring affair. Maybe not like really high, but at least
I mean,
moderate.
49 that's a
an
high
extent.
total.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty much right on the money. I think it'll be like a 27-24 type of game, something similar to that. I do like Mixon going forward too. We've starting to see Joe Burrow actually play like a real quarterback, unlike Andy Dalton, who's been really inconsistent. They might start respecting him a little bit more, and it might actually opening up some running room for Joe Mixon. So I think a big week is going to be in line at some point. This week may or may not be the week. If I have him on my team, which I actually do, I'm starting him, and I'm starting him with some confidence. I don't expect him to go out there and light the world on fire, but I think he'll have a decent game, and he has a good shot at getting a touchdown, I believe, this week. And in terms of Tyler Boyd, I believe Boyd will probably be the best bet. AJ Green, I'm a little nervous about. I mean, I found it quite ironic, and it's kind of like, oh, another year of AJ Green on the very first play of the season coming down lame. So I just don't have any trust in him. If you own him, I'm sorry, but I'd be nervous. I mean, his talent is there, but any week I'm nervous about him just getting injured on the first play and getting no fantasy points there. Even if you're hurting at tight end, Drew Sample is a fine punt if you're desperate. We've seen Joe Burrow come down and throw to his tight ends, especially when he's under duress. I don't think he's going to be under duress all that much against the Jags, so I'm not overly in love with it. But, I mean, you could do worse than Drew Sample. I mean, you have to be still, like, very, very desperate. But, I mean, I can't really fault anybody for that. In terms of Chark, I'm okay with him. I mean, if he's 100%, like I'm still rolling him out if I have him. I'm not expecting an overly big game with him just because I don't think he's 100%.
Yeah.
I still expect him to put up okay numbers. He still needs to be in your lineup no matter what. But I'm just not as excited for starting Chark this week as I normally would. And I'm definitely big on James Robinson this week against the Bengals front there. They're definitely going to be giving him the ball all day, whether it's through the air or through the ground.
Fair. My biggest issue with Joe Mixon isn't Joe Mixon's talent. I think that Joe Mixon is a probably top 7, maybe top 10 running back in the league. Very, very talented guy, able to get it done. But he's not somebody who can get it done without an offensive line. There aren't a lot who can. And the Bengals through 3 weeks have the 29th worst ranked offensive line according to PFF in the NFL. I mean, that's not likely to change this season, and we've seen that with as high profile backs as Todd Gurley. If you have a line full of holes, if you have a Swiss cheese line up there, you're going to be limited in what you can do. Burrow has to mature very quickly for me to go back to believing in Joe Mixon. I'm even against a soft defense like the Jaguars, I'm out on him. I think it's too easy to get through that Bengals line. They can pass protect long enough to keep Burrow on his feet sometimes. But run blocking is obviously much different than pass blocking. You have to actually be able to generate push and open up holes, and I don't see this Bengals offensive line being able to do that. So I'm with you. I'm in on Boyd.
He's always going to be a volume play.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. He's gonna get the carries, but they're just. I mean, he's getting hit so early in his rushes that he just can't go anywhere. I mean, the Bengals are allowing 1.1 yards before contact on average so far this season. Like that's putrid. But I'm with you. I'm in on Boyd if I have him. I'm fine starting T. Higgins if you need a spot start. He looked like he came on in a big way. The Bengals spent a high pick on him. It looks like he's probably going to be at least replacing John Ross, maybe AJ Green if AJ Green keeps not being able to get it done. It wouldn't shock me if AJ Green lays an egg this week if we stop seeing AJ Green as much on the field. Moving to the next game on the slate here. Vikings-Texans. 53.5 point over-under. These are not your granddaddy's Vikings. Or, I guess, not even your Vikings from 2019. I can't even say it's their offenses. Credit to their offense. Their defense can't stop anything. Because their defense is, they might as well not have a defense on the field, which just allows teams to score at will against them. And then the Vikings are just forced to play pace up so they can try and catch the other team. I keep expecting the Vikings defense to come around and be good, and each week they're like, we can take it even lower. Okay, fine. Fantasy points are a thing against you guys, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I've been blowing that trumpet since before the season started. I kept being like, they have 2 of the top 5 rated D linemen in the league, not named it's like Aaron Donald and then these 2 guys after that trade with Jacksonville. So I was like, yes, that's got to turn
the guy
into,
whose name I can't pronounce.
Yeah, but that should have turned into pressure in the pocket, and I think that's one of the best things for defense because you can't. If they're getting through, then you can stop runs. If they're getting through, then they can stop passes. So it helps everything else on the field. So I figured that was a recipe for, even though they don't have Xavier Rhodes anymore, they should still be able to get some stuff done.
Sure.
But I guess Xavier Rhodes is holding his whole team together.
He was the glue, man. It's like when you take that one Jenga block out and the whole tower comes down.
Yeah, as a great quote I heard from Pat McAfee. He was talking about some previous teams when he was on the Colts. You can't just buy culture for your team, but you can sure as hell sell it.
Yeah.
If Xavier Rhodes was the heart of that locker room and they got rid of him, it just could be a defense without an identity right now.
It seems that way. Everyone is putting up massive fantasy totals against and real totals against these guys. I'm excited if I'm rostering Texans. The Texans got a very, very rough opening gambit to this season. Chiefs, Steelers, Ravens, those are all very tough teams, especially the Chiefs' improved defense. This could be a bit of a get-right game for your Texans. Deshaun Watson shouldn't have any issue finding his guys out there. Obviously, it's a little worrisome that Fuller has a hammy now on a Thursday, but hopefully that's just a little bit of a smokescreen. Maybe Fuller, it's like, coach, my leg's feeling a little bit tight. And he's like, just take the practice off. It's whatever. I'm starting all of my Texans against the Vikings. I'm rolling out Deshaun Watson with confidence. I'm rolling out David Johnson with confidence. If Fuller plays, him, Brandon Cooks, if I need a spot start, sure, I'll take a shot at Randall Cobb. I think there are fantasy points to be had in this game. 53.5 is a massive total. And, Deshaun Watson doesn't have that one guy to hyper-focus anymore, so I think we're going to see the ball get spread around a bit. I'm even okay taking a shot at Aiken. He's touchdown or bust, but what tight end isn't touchdown or bust these days? Viking side of the ball, though, you're starting Thielen, you're starting Cook. Are you touching anyone else? What about Justin Jefferson, who also seemed like he came, another high-profile rookie, also seemed like he came on in a big way last week. Do you think you can trust him against these Texans?
What do you think on this one, Jeff?
Yeah, I'd roll him out this week as a wide receiver 3 flex kind of combo there. It'll be a higher scoring game. They're going to have to throw the ball a bit. I can see them utilizing Cook as well, but Jefferson should see enough volume. The Texans secondary is not exactly something that I see as daunting, and it only takes one big play from this rookie. We've seen it last week with his big play ability. It just takes one, and he'll make your week for you.
Fair.
Yeah, I'm in a similar camp. I'm a little bit lower. I'm ideally lower on him, but I recognize that with the postponement of the Titans and Steelers game, that you could be out Juju, Deontay. If you spot starting Humphreys because AJ Brown was down,
Corey Davis,
all those guys that you could have been starting. you're now out on top of all the injuries that have been going on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you need Justin Jefferson, I have no problem with you starting him as your wide receiver 3. If you're really banking on him, though, if he's like in your 2, if 2 or up, then I think you're in trouble because, like I said, he is very boom and bust. He is still a rookie.
Yeah.
And we know their hit percentage on the season is very low, like less than 10% of, that's like first-round rookies, like the top tier.
Yeah.
So I'm avoiding it if I can, but if you have to, I don't mind it.
I am still worried about Kirk a little bit too, where it's just like it seems like he's struggled getting the ball to his receivers. I mean, there's been times where I'm even kind of worried about Thielen at this point this season, where it's like we talk about prove it games. This is also a little bit of a prove it game for me for Kirk, I think, because if Kirk can sort of look better in 2 weeks in a row, it seems like maybe he's getting back on track. Whereas because this Houston defense isn't anything special, if he can't get it done against them, I'd be trying to sell my Vikings aside from Cook because Cook's value is not really tied to Kirk's. But this could be an interesting game to as a barometer for his value. Giants Rams 48-point over under. The line on this one is rough. The Giants are 12.5-point underdogs. Woo. That's
woof.
That's brutal. I mean, they're missing half their team, so it checks out. And the Rams are a great defense.
I feel like that's their excuse every year, though.
I mean, if they keep losing half their team, it's a valid excuse. I guess they should draft better, but
yeah, this is the Eagles' issue where the Eagles keep being bad because they keep losing people. It's like, well, if you keep drafting people with injury-prone problems, it's a harder thing to predict because injuries can be very fluke. But no, I am all about the Rams. This one, I think it's just they're going to be able to score at will, and Giants. I'm kind of This isn't even a prove it game for me for the Giants. This is a impress me and then I'll start you again kind of game. So I'm off most Giants. Slayton is the only one I think has any form of value just because he is the talent you've seen. He is a kind of he can make it with a few targets and somebody has to catch a ball on their side and they're going to be throwing it.
I'm honestly more if I have to start a Giant this week, I'm more on Golden Tate than I am on Slayton, just because I expect Slayton to get covered by Jalen Ramsey. I don't think he's good enough that he can get it done against them. I don't know that Daniel Jones is good enough to put the ball where it needs to be to avoid getting picked. I think that Golden Tate could find some room to run in the middle of the field, and he's going to be able to get open a little bit. He might assume the form of a safety blanket for. I don't think he's going to be a high volume or a high yardage guy this week. It's going to be low. Sorry, I lose my train of thought. Low ADOT targets, but if I have to start one, I'm probably going to him because I could see him getting 6 or 7 targets this week.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one, Ian. I'm looking at Golden Tate here in terms of the safer play. I mean, Slayton always has a lot of upside. He's always a little bit more boomer bust in normal weeks. I mean, with Shepard out, Slayton's usually a safer player. But this week, I'm feeling a little bit more confident in Golden Tate. I can see him going out there getting 8 targets, maybe 6 catches for about 60, 70 yards and a touchdown or so.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't expect him to have a horrible game. I think his floor is pretty sturdy with Shepard out this week.
Sure.
I'm not excited that he's going to blow the cover off of the roof and score 40 points, but
he's not going to have a Devontae Adams
20,
week.
I'd be happy.
Yeah, he's not going to have a Devontae Adams week. He's not going out there and score and getting 14 targets and 12 catches. But he could provide you a nice safe floor, I think, if you're missing someone. Rams side of the ball, you're just starting your Rams. I mean, you're starting. Goff's a great streamer this week, I think. Darrell Henderson's in a smash spot. You're starting Cook or you're starting Kupp and Woods. You're starting Higbee. Just don't galaxy brain this one. Akers is already out. You're leaving Malcolm Brown on your bench.
Yeah, I think this one. I think everyone you want to start your guys here. The only downside for them is that the other team can't really run it back against them to keep their value like across the board.
Yeah.
There's going to be duds in this game.
Yes.
Just because there's not going to be that many touchdowns scored. So I think this is going to be, I'm at least a little scared just because of how Cup's been used lately, that he might have a dud game again, just because I think he'll get a fair amount of targets. It won't be that bad, but I could see him just losing the end zone work to Higbee or just, Darrell Henderson just running it in. Like,
Yeah.
I could see a game where they just kind of run away with it. Darrell Henderson I think has another smash spot right here, but the receiving options, I think it's going to be Woods, and then it's either going to be Higbee or Cup. I don't think it's going to be both.
Sure, that's fair. Patriots, Chiefs, this week is just the week of high over-unders. 53 points, Patriots, Chiefs. Patriots are 6.5-point dogs in this one. I'm pretty excited for this one as a Patriots fan. I always love watching us go toe-to-toe with Mahomes. Obviously, it's not Brady this time. We have a much better quarterback under center now. I kid. But I think this will be an exciting game. I think on the Patriots side of the ball, you're starting Cam Newton this week. I think he's in a good pace-up spot. You're starting Julian Edelman. I'm okay with N'Keal Harry. I'm not starting any running backs. Chiefs side of the ball, you're starting all the obvious Chiefs, and if you want to take a shot at McCall Hardman, just hoping that he comes down with another 2-catch, 80-yard touchdown game. Sure, I won't tell you no. I don't think that's dumb.
Yeah, I think this one's simple. I would say just keep it simple with this game. I'm interested in this game just from a competitive. I'm more interested in this game from a competitive NFL side of it.
Yeah,
just to see how good is the Patriots defense against an elite offense, and what does Cam look like against a pretty solid team that's going to be up against us pretty quickly, if I'm assuming how this game's going to play.
Sure.
Can he play that up tempo? Can he dink and dunk? So I think this is a good spot for Jules. But I think the running backs could have some sneaky value, but I'm not too. What Sony did last week, I don't think you're going to get anywhere close to what Sony did. What Sony's going to do this week. So, keep it simple, I think, is the best way to go with this one.
Jeff, what about you? Are you starting any off the wall plays in this week, or is it just obvious plays or bust in this one?
I'd say obvious plays. If I have Cam Newton, I'm going to be holding my breath to a certain extent. As we saw last week, the Chiefs kind of held Lamar Jackson in check, in terms of a scrambling quarterback. That being said, Lamar didn't look like he was 100% with his throws. I mean, he looked really off. So I kind of want to see it with a smaller sample size coming in this week with Cam Newton. I'm still going to start him. I'm going to start him with less confidence than I normally would. But then again, game script will probably be on his side, so I won't be overly worried. But we'll be able to see what he's made out of at this point, kind of in this game. And I'm definitely excited about Julian Edelman going in this game. I think he's going to get a lot of targets. I mean, he could have a massive game against the Chiefs if they're trailing early. On the flip side, I like CEH this week. I think he could end up having a really big game. I can see him with a couple of scores. The Chiefs might try to run the ball a little bit more, for a change against the Patriots defense, because I believe they have been a little bit more susceptible to the ground this season compared to years past. And one way or another, positive game script does give him a lot of upside. I mean, I think they're going to utilize Kelsey quite a bit. Tyreek Hill might not have his typical big game. I mean, as we've seen in the past with Bill Belichick, that he kind of tries to take Tyreek Hill out of the equation. So if I'm a Kelsey owner or a CEH owner, I'm very excited about this week.
Sure. One last thing that I will say, that's just because last week it did seem like they were getting really good pressure on Lamar Jackson. One thing I will say that's maybe a feather in the Patriots' cap is they do have a better ranked offensive line so far than the Ravens this season. They are currently the second ranked offensive line on the year, just behind the Packers. So it might be a little bit harder for the Chiefs to be able to shut their offense down.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next game, in the last 4 o'clock game, Bills Raiders, another high total, 52.5. This one's pretty straightforward for me. I'm starting Josh Allen. I'm starting Stephon Diggs. I'm starting Devin Singletary, assuming Zach Moss is at least limited. And on the Raiders side of the ball, I'm starting Waller and Renfro. And Josh Jacobs, obviously.
Yeah, I don't even know if I go that deep. I like the same place for the Bills. Raiders side of the ball, it's Waller. It's Waller. Stop. Sorry, Waller and Jacobs. Like,
sit Josh Jacobs.
sit him. He's garbage.
That's
He's
a
not
hot
even
take.
he's not even the RB1.
Don't sit Josh Jacobs. That would be
No.
a terrible decision.
Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller. Stop.
Just because they're missing their two rookies, I think that if you need a wide receiver start, Hunter Renfrow is definitely in play because the volume, there's going to be passing volume that isn't going to go to Waller. Waller's not going to get 30 targets, or maybe he does. I don't know, but I don't think he's going to. So like someone else has to catch those targets. Hunter Renfrow seems like he's the next guy in line as it is. So I'm willing to look in his direction. I'm willing to give him the nod if I need a spot start, especially over a lot of, I think out of all of the guys that sort of emerged as spot starts this week, I'd put him just behind MVS at this point. MVS losing Allen Lazard, MVS gets a bump for me as a spot start, but it's him and then Hunter Renfrow for me.
Oh, I'm so much off of him just because I think we're going to see a vintage Derek Carr, and Derek Carr loves his tight end and
Sure.
his wide receivers. If other than Amari Cooper, they were not doing really anything of note. They had a game here or there, but like
That's
fair.
fair.
It was just a little too hard for me to predict. So I would rather go with I would still take like Justin Jefferson, probably not T Higgins over Renfro, because at least Renfro's the guy.
Yeah.
But I'll take MVS. I'll take Justin Jefferson. I'd probably take Greg Ward over him too.
Well, we can talk about him right now, actually.
Yeah.
Because in the saddest injury-ridden game of the slate, really, the Sunday night game should have been a great one. There are so many injured players on both sides of the ball in this one, but the 49ers are getting Kittle back. They might be getting Debo back. Raheem Mostert has a chance to play this week. Jerick McKinnon logged a full practice. I mean, the 49ers are at least getting healthy. The Eagles are getting less healthy. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside somehow hurt himself. It's Greg Ward and Zach Ertz and Miles Sanders, and I guess they're running a one wide receiver, one tight end, one running back set, and that's it.
Yeah, they're just rolling out extra linemen. They're just grabbing practice squad linemen.
They're throwing their D linemen out there too. Like, you're big, just stand there.
No, yeah, like, it's funny because even though the people are coming back for the Niners, like Jerick McKinnon, yeah, he logged a full practice just so he can start and get hit right back in those ribs and go, nope, not fully healthy, and he can limp back off the field. Mostert will somehow come back in the end of this game because they'll be so banged up. Like, this feels like a game where the Niners are going to roll out half of their squad and they're going to still come back with like about the same amount of injuries before all these guys got healthy.
I will
They could
say,
probably play him with their practice squads.
yeah, no, they're definitely playing. Yeah, like this is gonna be a. If the Eagles find a way to win this one, I'll be impressed. I will say, Alshon Jeffrey was limited in practice. It looks like yesterday and today, so I guess there's a chance he plays this week. What Alshon Jeffrey with no, lead up to this game, no real actual game speed reps looks like, I don't know, but it's hard to be excited about anyone aside from Miles Sanders. It's hard to be excited about anyone in this matchup. I mean, like, Carson Wentz has looked objectively bad, and he doesn't have anyone to throw to.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I'm calling this game the way I would call a basketball game, where who's got the most talented person on the field. I think that would be the Eagles' offense with Sanders. So I'm just like, you know what? Maybe it's them, because the Niners are just everything's gone.
I guess, yeah. I mean,
What do you think?
it
on
looks
this
like
one, Jeff?
Mullins might start again this week too. So
Yeah. What do you think on this one, Jeff?
If I'm owning any Eagles players, and I don't know why you really should own too many Eagles players because they're always injured, first of all, and especially, I mean, Alshon Jeffrey, if he comes back and plays, I'm not starting him unless I'm absolutely desperate. We don't know how healthy he is. He's always a chance of getting re-injured. If I can get Hunter Renfrow over him, I would definitely start him over Alshon at this rate. If I get Zach Ertz, I'm rolling him out there. He's going to get some volume. I'm not worried about him. Definitely don't start Carson Wentz under any shape or form. Miles Sanders, always a great play. Lock him in every week, no matter who who they're playing against. Sanders will get his volume. He'll get his touches. He'll probably get some receptions out of the backfield to help you out in PPR formats. I mean, if I have the 49ers defense, I'm pretty excited about this one. I mean, Wentz is going to see a lot of time on his back probably this weekend. And on the flip side, if you have either running back, I mean, they're both respectable flex plays. Jerick McKinnon obviously leading the pack there. I mean, Jeff Wilson's not bad either. I mean, he's going to potentially get some of the goal line work as well. And the 49ers are definitely going to romp them in this one.
I will say, I was just reading a quick update on Alshon Jeffrey. I guess per Keith Hernandez from Rotoballer, he is not expected to play this week. So even though he's logging limited practices, he's unlikely to be on the field.
And didn't they sign a wide receiver to play tight end as well?
Yes, Hakeem Butler. They signed him off the Panthers practice squad, I want to say. He was a 4th-round pick for the Cardinals. They signed him off the Panthers practice squad, and they are converting him to tight end. He's someone who I actually keep my eye on if he pops a little bit in this game, because he was supposed to have some talent when he was coming in. If he pops in this game, I could see him carving out a role in that just decimated Eagles team, because someone has to catch the ball. But yeah, no, avoid this game like the plague. Avoid this game like the plague. Hopefully you have Miles Sanders or George Kittle. I don't want anyone else. Well, that'll do it for the countdown. Before we wrap this show up, let's jump over to our starts of the week and our money picks. So I've got the record for how we did last week. Frankie finally took a week. After getting one right through the first, or I think it was actually, we had one right through the first 2 weeks. Frankie actually went 3 for 4 this past week. He hit on Gallup and Taylor as his starts of the week, and if you started Dalton Schultz as a tight end on DraftKings last week at 4,500, you were probably pretty happy. Chase Claypool, not so much, but he was a basically bargain bin price wide receiver, so you expect him to kind of miss. I went 0 for 4 because Joshua Kelly screwed me in both start and money pick, so could have been better. Kenyon Drake didn't perform. Cam Newton didn't perform. And then you split your starts and money picks, Vitali, going 2 for 4. Brady was a hit. Slayton was a miss. And then on the money pick side, you missed with Sanders barely. He was a good play, honestly, but his lack of touchdowns and the fact that he only had a 50% catch rate just capped his value overall. Yeah, but Gibson was a hit for fantasy managers.
Oh yeah. Sanders was an annoying one just to see them go in overtime, and he had 90 yards. I'm like, 10. Just let me get 10, and then he would have been a fine start for DK. But no, I guess they were just able to contain him enough, and they went away from him a little bit too much, just enough for him to be a bust.
Well, this week, because Frankie is not joining us, we don't have any picks for Frankie, so Frankie is going to remain at 6-12 for his picks on the year. What do you say we lead off with Jeff for this one? Let Jeff wow us with his starts and money picks.
Shoot.
Jeff, take us away.
Like I had mentioned earlier in the show, I was very excited about the Jacksonville and Bengals game and how two bad defenses turn into a little bit of a shootout here. So I'm double downing on both sides of the offense here with my first pick and James Robinson. Like I alluded to earlier, I mean, he's just the workhorse back over there. I know they're kind of sprinkling in Chris Thompson a little bit more in a lot of third down situations, only when they're behind in games. I think this one's going to be a little bit more competitive. So James Robinson is going to see quite a bit of work, not only on the ground, but he's also going to get some dump offs. And he's always a threat to kind of gain big yardage when he gets it in open space as well. So if you have James Robinson, plug him in, put him as your RB2, your flex, whatever, feel confident. He'll do well. He'll probably get a touchdown. He'll do something. On the other side, I do like Joe Burrow. I've liked what I've seen from him this season. The Jacksonville defense is not exactly anything intimidating. Even with that offensive line that the Bengals do have, I'm starting Joe Burrow with confidence this week. He should come in and be a great streamer for you if you're missing Ben Roethlisberger, if you're missing Ryan Tannehill, if you happen to have him for for whatever reason, even though I wouldn't start him against the Steelers regardless. But Joe Burrow is definitely a great streamer for you if you are missing out on quarterbacks. And in terms of my money picks, and I think Ian and I probably have the same here. I don't know. He might have had a different pick or whatever. But
One of your money picks is one of my starts.
Yes. All right, there we go. I'm going with Kenyon Drake here at 6,000. I mean, he's too cheap. I mean, he's had plenty of volume so far this season. He's only gotten one touchdown. That's going to change this week. I mean, Carolina is at the bottom of run defense in the entire league. It's been that way last season. It hasn't changed this year. They're going to load him up. It's going to be a one-sided affair, I would imagine. I mean, Carolina's been impressing me lately, in terms of their offense and staying in ball games. I don't think they're going to be able to do it this week. But the way that the Cardinals play up-tempo, Kenyon Drake's going to run all over them. He'll probably get a touchdown, hopefully 100 yards, maybe even a second touchdown would be great. I can see Chase Edmonds kind of doing a little bit of work as well, but as long as he doesn't vulture all of the touchdowns for Drake, he's going to be in line for a big week. And on my other pick, as long as Julian Edelman is healthy and 100%, I like him at his price point at 5,700. He's simply just going to get too much volume in a game that should be exciting to watch. If Cam shows that he can stick with the Chiefs and the Chiefs defense, he's going to be looking for Julian Edelman early and often. And as long as he's 100% healthy, I can see him put up some very big numbers, as we've seen earlier this season, where he's actually had his career high in yards, not with Tom Brady, but with Cam Newton, which was a little bit of a shock when I saw that.
For my starts, I went with Devin Singletary and Tyler Boyd. Devin Singletary against Vegas. I just love that, Zach Moss is returning. People are a little scared about that. But as far as Vegas has been pretty bad against the run, as we pointed out when you were talking about why you liked Cam Newton so much last week. And on top of that, Zach Moss is dealing with a foot injury. So if he's been limited 2 days in a row now, so my expectation is he will get some work, but it'll be in limited fashion just to kind of get him back into game speed. So I think Singletary should be getting the lion's share, at least for this week. So for this week, I'm fine. Roll him out as your flex guy, as your RB2 if you're hurt for running backs. And Tyler Boyd, I think he finally got to show the coaching staff. He got to show Zach Taylor that he's the guy you need to go to in this offense. He's reliable. And, for a rookie who's trying to find his feet in the NFL, safety blanket, we see all the time that they like to go to those guys. If you can't hit if your your Hall of Fame wide receiver isn't coming down with even well-placed balls, then his confidence can be shaken because he doesn't have rapport built. So I think we could see another game where Boyd does Boyd things, which is a lot of targets coming his way. His ADOT won't be amazing because that's not the kind of receiver he is. And Jacksonville's a defense I'm not scared of. So I think he is someone you should start with confidence. Going to my money picks, I went Matt Stafford and Darren Waller. So going in reverse order. I'm kind of going against Renfro this week. I think we're going to see classic Derek Carr this week, who loves his tight ends. He loves to shower them in targets. And at 5,200, I think Waller is cheap enough where you'll still be able to get in those top-tier plays at running back and wide receiver while still getting quality points back from the tight end position. Like I said, I'm not scared of Buffalo over the middle. That's where they are a good defense over the middle. They have been terrible, so I think you could just see a lot of little dink and dunks right over the middle to Waller, and he's just going to eat in PPR and half-point PPR. Stafford, I mean, he's playing New Orleans. New Orleans has a legit defense, but we've seen how bad Breeze has been playing lately. At 5,900, he is a cheap option for you at quarterback that is going to be throwing the ball a lot because that's how Detroit plays. He's got another week of a healthy Galladay. I could just see them going up and then Breeze kind of not being able to get it done as that defense, which played legit for how bad they are. I could see them getting some good turnovers and basically just Stafford putting up just one of his classic Stafford games and just airing it out because Adrian Peterson can't keep getting 20 carries. He's gonna break down eventually. I see this could be a sneaky Swift game. Eventually the tires will fall off and they'll need to use one of their young second-round picks that they for some reason hate. All right, those are my starts and monies for the week. What do you got, Ian?
Kenyon Drake versus Carolina. Jeff already kind of covered the big topics on him with his money pick, but I'm locking him in as a start. He's someone that fantasy managers might be panicking on a little bit, that you might be considering benching him because he hasn't been living up to his first or second round draft capital. He was a high pick for most managers. Carolina can't stop anything. They're a wet paper bag. He's going to be able to run right through them. They've got a banged up receiver core. No one's been able to, not get it done against this Carolina team. I mean, even Leonard Fournette, who I would describe as plodding, looked good against these guys. Kenyon Drake is much better than Leonard Fournette. He should have a great game this week. And if some of these receivers miss, if Nuke or Christian Kirk isn't good to go, he could be in line to get a lot of receiving work as well. I think that this defense is bad enough that Kenyon Drake, Kyler Murray, and Chase Edmonds are all going to be able to find room to run, and you're not going to be upset to plug any of them into your lineup. Conversely, another guy that I'm very in on this week, and a guy that fantasy managers might be a little hesitant on, Will Fuller versus Minnesota. I think he's in a smash spot this week. He's going to eat versus that defense. I mean, they can't stop anyone. We talked about that in the Minnesota breakdown. Deshaun Watson's going to be looking to his number one all day. I am going to put an asterisk on this one, that if Will Fuller can't go, my start, because he does have that hammy limited tag. We don't know how that's going to shake out. If he's out there, he's my money, or he's my start of the week there. But if he can't go, Brandon Cooks, I'll sub in over him, because I think whoever the number one is for Houston is going to eat this week. And then on my money picks, you talked about Darren Waller at 5,200 and how you love him, and I agree, he's a great play this week. I like Hunter Renfrow at 4,600. You can go outside of the obvious plays at wide receiver. You don't have to just play the big money guys, the guys where they get the obvious volume, because wide receiver is a little bit more fluky. Hunter Renfrow's at 4,600 this week. He gets Buffalo, who's just not looking like a good defense. They can't really slow anyone down. There's also no one else really to catch passes there. I mean, Ruggs and Edwards are missing this week. Waller's not getting 30 targets. Some of it's going to have to go somewhere else. They've shown they like Renfrow in the past. 46 is an easy price point for him to pay off. He only needs to get fantasy managers about 10 to 12 points to hit this week. I'm confident that Renfrow can hit that, and he has upside for way more if he can get in the end zone once or twice, or maybe catches 8 or 9 balls just because he has to. So I'm in on Renfrow this week. Plug him in. He gives you a lot of roster flexibility. And then Darrell Henderson Jr. is my other money pick, 5,800 this week. I'm a big proponent of not getting cute with running backs on DraftKings. You don't want to try and overthink it and convince yourself to play like Nyheim Hines or something, because look at all the receiving volume he gets. Just follow the snaps, follow the carries, follow the usage rates. Darrell Henderson Jr.'s had 2 great weeks in a row. Cam Akers is out. Malcolm Brown's been a career backup. I don't think he's going to come in. Like they spent high draft capital on this guy for a reason, and he's showing them that he has the ability to take off and run with this role. 5,800 is very affordable for a number one running back. He should be seeing 20 touches in this game, and I could see him getting, finding his way to 100, 110 multi-purpose yards, maybe a touchdown, with obviously the upside for more. We've seen it with the Rams, where they look like they're more of a run-heavy team this year. They want to pound the rock. He could end up with 2 or 3 touchdowns this week. Robert Woods gets tackled inside the 5. They're going to punch it in there. They're not throwing it. So throw Darrell Henderson Jr. in there. He's got a good floor this week with amazing touchdown upside.
Yeah, I like all those picks, especially like Darrell Henderson Jr. was about to be on mine in the same spot, but you took him first, so I graciously let you have that one. I'll
snuck him into the show, Doc.
Yeah, I'll graciously let you have that easy one. So I'll go with the higher, the sharp picks. So, but no, I think those are great picks.
All right, well, that'll do it for the second half of the Countdown episode. Join us on Tuesday when we drop the weekly recap. We do a little 3 and out with you guys and go over our favorite waiver picks for Week 5. And I wish you all the best of luck this week.